Okay, in the last couple of weeks I've gotten quite a few calls, or not calls, well, I get calls and emails, but emails regarding how to do a shower pan. And so I believe I posted a video some years ago, maybe about 3 years ago now, where I showed how to do a shower pan. I think it was a tub to shower conversion, and I showed the process, although that was a concrete slab. And if I'm not mistaken, I have maybe another video or two showing how to do a pan. But the email that I had got specifically was asking the process of mixing the mortar. You know, mortar is sand mix, and that's what this is. I've got 5 bags of it, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. So anyway, I don't have a secondary hand to videotape me working, unfortunately. So most of my videos I'm just kind of editing afterwards, showing the process rather than the actual doing. And so I'm going to try and do both on this video, showing the process and the doing, hopefully. I don't have the proper equipment to really set up and show me working, nor do I really want to, but I do want to answer some of the questions about how to do a pan. So I'm going to explain this as succinctly as I can. I tend to talk a lot, so you can fast forward if you want. This was originally a plastic shower pan. I call them plastic, they're fiberglass. It's a fiberglass shower pan, and there was tile, builder's grade 6-inch tile going up the walls. So the customer wanted to redo this and make a real shower. We couldn't get much more room. This was a cutout section, you can see, and so we only got maybe about 3 more inches of room out of the shower because of the door jamb. So we couldn't make it much larger, but you know, we did the best we could. Just getting rid of that plastic will give the impression of it being larger anyway. So I'm doing a bunch of other stuff here, as well as yesterday changing out the shower valve with a new one, and I'm putting a niche in, but that's not really what this video is about. This video specifically is about the shower pan. And so let me get back to this. The original, let me see if I don't have it. Original drain was right here. This is the fiberglass drain that came out of it. So as you can see, it did a complete 90, literally right off of the drain and up to the bottom, and I guess floor level is about where my fingers are at. So that caused me a little bit of angst, because the P-trap wasn't until you got way over here, and it was embedded into a floor joist. So I actually had to reconfigure this whole thing and get the P-trap in here. From the floor joist is where the P-trap was, and I just cut it off and brought a line straight over, and then I made my P-trap here so that I could get it in here. And so that's what the cutout is there for. So after I do all the gluing of the new P-trap and putting the new drain cap in and all that stuff, then of course, you know, I get a piece of plywood and I replace what I cut out. So that's what's going on there. The next step, well, let me explain a couple other things too. The blocking is all these 2x6s you see. I couldn't do a 2x6 here, the pipes were too close to the outside edge. So I actually used some of this other scrap plywood to put in there. And so for all intents and purposes, I'm calling this blocking. There's one little area that I didn't do right here because it's very small. I'm not too concerned about it. When I first started doing showers, it dawned on me everything I was tearing out never had any type of blocking. So what I would see typically is I would see the shower pan liner pushed in like this. You know, the mortar that you put in there gets kind of pushed down, and the liner maybe has some slack and it gets pushed down, and I've never liked that. So I automatically just started doing 2x6 blocking probably 16 years ago when I first started out doing this. And now I'm starting to see other people doing blocking also. Not that I started the trend, but I just think it's a smart idea to do. It doesn't do any harm. It takes, you know, maybe 15 minutes to put this stuff in, and I just feel like it's better to have it than not have it. And I rarely take out a shower where I see it. Maybe 3 times in all the showers I've taken out have I actually seen blocking like this, the way I do it. So that's a good suggestion to do that. In the meantime, we just have the curb here, which is 3 2x4s stacked on top of each other, and that's all we have. So for all intents and purposes, a lot of work hasn't been done here. Maybe about 2 hours worth of work from doing the P-trap and doing the blocking and setting the curb is all that's been done. So if this is what you're looking at in your shower, even if you get a plumber to come in and do this part, then the next process is what I'm doing right now. you're going to want to take this drain out, the drain flange and cover and all that stuff. Just loosen these bolts and it turns counterclockwise and becomes loose like that. And then you take the bolts out and be careful not to drop them inside, obviously. If you should drop one of these inside, they have the telescoping magnets that you can actually fish these out with. Or you can go back to Home Depot and try and get the right size again of this type of bolt. But that's the process. So of course I've tested the drain overnight. I still see standing water in here, so we're good to go on that. And we're just putting the drain flange and top cover aside for now. So that's really just the first process here. As you noticed, or may not have noticed already, this flange is flush with the floor. This is where exactly I want it. And for those of you who haven't seen my other videos where I show the process of putting a drain in fact, I think the title of the video is installing a Odie 2-inch shower drain. That's the title. And you will see where I've kind of tapered the edge of this plywood in order to have that opposite taper that's on the drain flange fit snugly down there. Then of course there's 4 screws in there that hold it down. So that's the process. And so this is most likely what you're looking at, or you're going to eventually get to. And then the next step would be the shower pan liner. Now this liner happens to be gray. I usually, either have gray or red or, whatever color, it doesn't really matter. It's the same type of pan liner, PVC pan liner. This shower is about 4 foot and a few inches from front to back, and I think it's the same going left to right. So we basically have a need for a larger pan liner. The larger the better. You don't want to come up shy on your pan liner. So what I did is I went out and got a 6x6 pan liner. So that's more than enough to wrap the curb with, and it's more than enough to go 8 inches up on both sides. Again, I don't have anybody to videotape the process, so I'll probably put this in and kind of show what I've done directly afterward. With the pan liner, it's still fall, kind of, I don't know, it's starting to get into fall, so still kind of warm outside, meaning that it's over about 70 degrees today. So I put the pan liner outside in direct sunlight if I can, because it loosens it up and makes it more pliable. So when I start doing my folds in the corner and wrapping over and all that stuff, I can manipulate the pan a little better. So if you have a heated pan, the more heat on it you can get, the better. And in addition to that, especially in the wintertime, you want to put one of these in a heated room when you don't have the sunlight, so that it's more pliable. But in addition to that, when I start doing the mortar, I have a couple buckets of hot water that will do the same thing to this thing. It'll make it want to bend back to the folds that I put in the corners and all that stuff a lot better. So hot water won't hurt it. The hot water is going to be added to the mortar mix, and it's going to be mixed inside of this tub. And then it'll be scooped in. Once the pan liner is in here, it'll be scooped in shovel by shovel load. There's a lot of different ways to mix this mortar. Well, let me get back to the mortar itself. This is a Home Depot product, and Quikrete is the name of their product. You have basically a yellow bag with a green stripe. I call it a green stripe because you see the green on it, right? So this is mortar mix. This is basically like brick mortar. In fact, you can see it on here where they're setting brick and block and stuff. So this is brick mortar. Home Depot sells another one that's made by the same manufacturer that has a red stripe. So it's still a yellow bag but has a red stripe. So I'll explain the difference. With this mortar mix, I can come in here tomorrow and I can come in here with my 12-inch blade, and I can scrape off, if I have high points, wherever they're at, I can scrape off and manipulate my pan the next day. With the green stripe mortar mix, with the red stripe, the next day, that's like concrete. It's like a brick. So it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to scrape off inconsistency. So by default, I always use the mortar mix with the green stripe and not the red one. Anyway, as I said, I prefer to mix it in a tub. You can mix it in a bucket. I have one of the mixers that I use for my thin set, but I've tried it a few times in a bucket and it doesn't work so well. It's kind of sloppy. So this is the way I've been doing it for years, and I just by default always do it this way. I usually add 2 bags into here, and then usually get about 1 gallon, maybe a 5-gallon bucket. So I'll get about 1 gallon, maybe 1.5 gallons to mix those 2 bags. And then the next 2 bags will go in, and then if I need the last one, then I'll use the last one as well. But by the time everything's said and done, I've used up this 5-gallon bucket, maybe a little bit less than 5 gallons for 5 bags, about a gallon each. Getting back to over here, when I scoop it in, as I get through the first 2 bags, and I will show this later in the video, a good size scoop will end up here, good size scoop there, there, and there. So you get the idea of 1 scoop in each corner. And then as I start scooping up again, I just repeat the process so that I have an even amount of mortar to begin with. And then I just continue the process. If I feel like I need the 5th bag, then I add that. On a 4x4, I'll probably use the 5th bag. On a typical 3x4 shower, I'll just solid 4 bags, or even a 3x3 shower. Anything smaller than this is going to be a solid 4 bags. In fact, when I do a tub to shower conversion, that is about 32 inches by 5 foot, and that's also 4 bags. But anything larger, the math works out to about 5 bags. Anything larger than that. Anything larger than this would probably be 6 bags. So if this shower actually went out about 5 foot by 4 foot, then most certainly I would do 6 bags. And so that's how the math works. So I'm going to go ahead and put the pan liner in, and I'm going to chat a bunch more when I get the liner in, and I will show the process best I can.